Most gracious God, we ask this morning that you will confront us. Confront us with your whole being, that we might, this time, truly see. Before I begin this morning, I need to apologize to some of you because I'm about to repeat myself. A few weeks ago, I had this experience, and I've already shared it with several of you. But I think that it kind of works with the context of our scripture this morning, so I want to tell the story again for those of you who have not heard it. And if you have heard it, accept my apology. But maybe you can listen again with, I don't know, with kind of new ears. So, as you know, the fire at the parsonage has left me without any hot water, so I've been coming here to the church to take a shower. It was on Friday, September the 27th, that I was here getting ready for the day, and I thought that I heard someone buzzing the buzzer at our front door. But it was like 7:30 in the morning, and I thought that was a little early to be buzzing. So I decided that my ears were just playing tricks on me. But sure enough, when I stepped out of the bathroom and into the fellowship hall area, I could hear that someone was definitely and very persistently buzzing the buzzer. Well, I don't know why this is, but it kind of set me off. And I didn't really feel very comfortable going to the door to see who was there. So I did the most logical thing that a person would do in that particular situation. I called Alan Herman. I called Alan to see if he would drive by the church and tell me who was buzzing at the front door. But Alan was already at work by the time that I got hold of him. And by the time that I got hold of him, the person who was at the front door had moved to the back door, the door of the fellowship hall, very near to where I was. And whoever was there, he or she was banging with great force up on that door. Just like bang, 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 bang. Well, that pretty much freaked me out. And so Alan and I hung up the phone, and I did the second most logical thing that a person would do in that situation. I called 911. I called 911 and I asked the little dispatcher man if someone could drive by the church and tell me who was banging at the back door. Now, as you might expect, by the time the police got here, the buzzing, banging person was gone. So the whole event turned out to be very uneventful. I never did find out who that was, and if it was you, would you please raise your hand? The whole thing turned out to be very uneventful, but for some reason, it really rattled me, really shook me up, so that I didn't come to the church that afternoon to keep my office hours. And I was afraid to come back on Saturday morning to take my shower. By Saturday afternoon, though, I really needed to get some stuff done here at the church. So I determined that I was not going to be afraid to be in this building. I love it here. It's like a second home to me. I'm here as much or sometimes as more as I am at the parsonage. And I just refused to let someone frighten me away from this place that I love. So I jumped in my little car and I drove on over, but when I pulled into the parking lot, I decided that I might be a little bit more frightened of this place that I love than I wanted to admit that I was. And when I walked in the front door, I noticed for the first time ever how very dark and long the hall is from the foyer to the fellowship hall. But I did my best to summon up all the courage that I had, and I came into the sanctuary. I walked right up this aisle. I came to the chancel area, and I began to do this very important work that I had come here to do. And it just so happened that while I was working, I looked up and I caught hold of something in the periphery of my side. So I looked again. And right there, right behind Connie, the same pew my mom was sitting on, right behind Connie, I saw this very large tower raising up in front of me. And as it built itself up to the rafters, I heard a voice inside of me say, "I am your strong tower." Psalm 61. Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth I call to you when my heart is faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you are my refuge, a strong tower against my enemy. Well, you can make what you will of that story. But I believe God showed God's self to me in that moment. God showed me God's protection and care for me. And I don't know why or how this kind of thing happens, but here's what I do know. I know that we will see God when we look for God. So, are you looking? The last 2 Sundays we've been thinking about and talking about and contemplating this story from John's Gospel, this wonderful story of Jesus giving sight to a man who was born blind. In order to help the man see, Jesus covered his eyes with mud that he made. And then Jesus, the one who was sent by God, sent the man to a pool called Sent and told him to wash the mud off of his eyes. And the man went and he washed, and his eyes were opened so he could see the glory of God. The man's neighbors were shocked and baffled by what the man claimed, that Jesus had given him sight. So the neighbors took this man to their religious leaders. And the religious leaders were shocked and baffled by what this man claimed, that Jesus had given him sight. So the religious leaders took the man to his parents, and the man's parents were shocked and baffled by what their son claimed, that Jesus had given him sight. It seems no one except the formerly blind man, no one could see what they were all very much a part of. The neighbors and the religious leaders and the parents couldn't fully trust in this, their experience of God. That's what I'm hearing in our text this morning. As God worked through Jesus to open this man's eyes, all of those who were a witness of the miracle were touched by that experience. And if they had looked for God in that glorious revelation, they would have found God there. The man's story would have become their story as well, and they could have, run through the whole city telling about this miraculous healing of a blind man's eyes. They could have testified to the glory of God made manifest in Jesus. What happened in the life of this one man could have been a personal revelation for everyone who witnessed the event, because when we look for God, we will find God. Are you looking? works in our lives in very real and tangible ways that we can clearly see if we will just open our eyes. And God gives us these experiences for a reason, so I think we're quite wise to trust in them. God gives us these experiences for a reason, in the miraculous and in the mystery of God's glory revealed to us and among us and through us. We are drawn ever closer into this divine human relationship. As John Beierdorf says in his book, Healing of Purpose, the world is not random chaos, but it is an arena for purposeful activity to bring all things to God. The world is an arena for purposeful activity to bring all things and all people to God. There's an emphasis in our text this morning on what everyone knows and what they don't know. Did you catch hold of that? The religious leaders don't know if this man who can see is the same man who was blind from birth, but they do know that Jesus is a sinner. The man's parents do know that the man is their son, and they do know that he was born blind, but they don't know how he's able to see, and they don't know who healed his eyes. The religious leaders ask them. They say, if this is your son who was born blind, then how is he now able to see? And the parent says, we don't know. We don't know. Go ask our son. But they don't ask him.